Shalom, Israel. Shalom, shalom. Brother Naquam, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut to give, of course, our honor and our glory to Yahweh. By Shema Mashiach or Malak Bashai. Double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming of Mashiach or Malak Bashai. A hearty, mighty shalom to all of the mighty men of the Most High God who are out there on highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnifying the ministry, presenting their bodies as a living sacrifice, and enduring all things for the elect's sake. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there on the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, they're fasting, they're studying, they're being diligent and abounded in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the Aquaf out there, the sincere sisters out there, hold it down in the households, reverencing the husbands, being submissive and diligent, and moving in the spirit of our righteous foremothers. Shalom, shalom. And shalom to everybody tuning in live. Or Shabbat shalom to everybody tuning in live. Antoine Ford, Nigel Blends, Richard Perez, Anthony Knox, Ephraimite Ak, Don Israel, Yolanda Caesar, Princess to a King, Quad Israel 23, Yvette McKellar, and everybody else tuning in and that will tune in, Lord willing. The topic of this cold cut is end times, the Assyrian and prophecy is revealed, right? End times, the Assyrian and prophecy is revealed. Now, this actually comes from end time headlines, right? When you go into this particular article that was put out there, going into what they may not know the ins and outs of it, but they did pose the question. It's from end time headlines: is America the modern Nineveh? You know, we follow a lot of these different end times, whistleblowers, alternative media sources, news outlets that's not mainstream and things of that nature. End time headlines has been one, brothers been looking at for, years and years. And Salakia, the question on the table now is America the modern Nineveh? And the first thing I thought about was, Khan, America is the modern Nineveh. When you go through prophecy, you read about the Assyrian and you read about Nineveh, and it directly correlates to a nation that's on the earth right now, right? And we'll dive into who the prophetic people of Nineveh are, or who the prophetic Assyrian is. You have the ancient Assyrian and their various empires, the Neo-Assyrian Empire, the Old Assyrian Empire, the Assadide dynasty, the Sargonid dynasty, and these different kings that ruled some 2,000 or 3,000 years ago or so. And then you have your modern day Assyrians and your modern day Nineveh. And we'll touch on this, right? So let's go into this. And this is prophecy right here, right? The Most High deals heavily with prophecy, and the Most High deals heavily with Babylon the Great. They are prophesied, or America's prophesied, and America's a compilation of many different kingdoms on the earth, right? Let's go to Isaiah chapter 24. America's spiritual Tyre and Zidon. They are spiritual Rome, spiritual Greece. They're the spiritual Persians and Medes, right? They're the spiritual Babylonians, but they are also the spiritual people of Tyre and Zidon. Babylon goes back to the Hebrew word Babal, which means confusion, right? This Isaiah 24 and 10. The city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up that no man may come in. What is the city of confusion? America. America, although they are a country in today's world or a kingdom, prophetically, they are also known as that great city. And that is the city of confusion. That's where Babylon comes from, because they take components and characteristics from every nation that has ruled before them. They took the power and might and military prowess of the Assyrians. They took the political structure, military might of the Romans. They took the political structure and some of the gods of the Greeks. The concept of slavery and servitude was taken from the Egyptians. A totalitarian government was taken from the Persians. Religion and witchcraft and sorcery and idolatry was taken from the Babylonians. So they have taken bits and pieces from every nation that ruled before them, and thus this is a city of confusion, right? Let's go to Revelation, because you don't know, where you're at, man. 1 minute you're in Rome, 1 minute you're in Greece, 1 minute you're in Babylon, 1 minute you're in Persia. You're in every kingdom or every captivity, all summed up in one. This is our final captivity, and is a reminder of every captivity that we have been in, right? And I know in time past we did a cold cut. Rome 2.0, or America's the second Rome. America's also the second Nineveh, that city, right? Revelation chapter 17 and verse 18. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. So the city of confusion, also known as the great city, is Babylon, the great America. Spiritually, we're going to go through the scriptures and show you that great city is also Nineveh. Right there, that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Because the same way that America has moved in the spirit of imperialism and expanded and has military bases and embassies throughout the known world, that's not new. Assyria did the same thing. At one time, they were the largest empire on the earth, and they reigned over the kings of the earth, and they were the great city, full of idols, harlotry, robbery, and murder. So America's moving in that exact same spirit. So let's go into this article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's America, the modern Nineveh. See, they got Jonah right there, because Jonah actually prophesied of Nineveh, right? He said, yet 40 days, right? And Nineveh shall be overthrown. All right. So let's go into this. This is, it says, America has greatly sinned against God through abortion, homosexuality, adultery, rampant pornography, and fornication. We have no fear of God, and America is rapidly becoming a pagan nation. You see that? And this isn't made by brothers in the truth. There's no camp that I know of that owns and sponsors end time headlines. This is done by these modern day Babylonians, man. They say America has greatly sinned against the Most High. And they listed a plethora of sins. Our only hope, now this is where they're going off. Our only hope is to humble ourselves and fasting and prayer. Well, you can't save Nineveh. See, a lot of people read the book of Jonah, and we may touch on it, where the people of Nineveh, they were prophesied to, and they humbled themselves in earth and ashes. And the majority of those people were Israelites, man, that lived in Nineveh. Tobit lived in Nineveh. You know, you had a lot of Israelites that lived in Nineveh that Jonah prophesied to. And a lot of people think that the Most High is going to turn away the wrath of America if they humble themselves. America is not going to humble themselves. They are set up to be destroyed. So this is madness. Our only hope is to humble ourselves in fasting and prayer. Nineveh was a great city, like we read in Revelation. In fact, the Bible states that it was so vast, it took 3 days just to tour it. Historians say Nineveh had walls 100 feet high with watchtowers that stretched another 100 feet. The walls were so thick that chariots could race on the top of them. Surrounding a city of about 120,000 people was a vast moat of 150 foot wide, 60 foot deep. Nineveh was proud, strong, and impregnable, meaning you couldn't penetrate it. You couldn't get through it. And that's how America is, man. America's proud. Nobody could take them down. They're calling the shots at NATO, at the United Nations. They're really running it, telling the other nations what's going to happen. They don't conform to policy and diplomatic affairs. They pretty much do what they want to do. They're strong. America allegedly right now is impregnable, right? It reads, and if any foreign army wanted to lay siege or attempted to surround and cut them off, they had enough supplies to hold out at least 20 years. But Nineveh was filled with sin. You see that? I want to stop there a moment and point something out. I'm sure not all the people of Nineveh were sinning. Well, nevertheless, everybody in Nineveh went off. They were going off, and Jonah was sent against Nineveh to prophesy against it. Right? Let's go to the book of Jonah, the 3rd chapter. Right? This is Jonah chapter 3 and verse 1. Right? Now, again, Nineveh was the chief city of the Assyrian Empire. All right, when you look up the Assyrian Empire, let's pull this up. Here's a map of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. All right. Now, the Neo-Assyrian Empire is just another sub faction or category of the Assyrian Empire that ruled for thousands of years. Now, this started around 913 or so BC, the Neo-Assyrian Empire. Now, Nineveh was actually located. Let's pull this up. I had this map so-called pulled up. So here's Neo-Assyrian Empire, right? And they started around 911 or 912 BC. And they fell really at the Battle of Nineveh in 612 BC, but they finally collapsed around 609 BC. Right? Now, if you look at this map right here, see if we can zoom in a little bit, right? And go to Nineveh. So here's Nineveh right here, right? And this is the chief city of the Neo-Assyrian Empire, located right off the Tigris River. At one time, this was the most powerful kingdom on the earth. And Jonah was sent to Nineveh to prophesy against it, right? Now, let's go into that. This is Jonah chapter 3 and 1. And the word of Yahweh came unto Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go into Nineveh, that great city, and preach unto it the preaching that I bid thee. And everything we see that Jonah did, you have the men of the Lord also doing. We're in modern day Nineveh, and we're preaching unto it. The only exception is at the time of Nineveh or Jonah, they humbled themselves. Because keep in mind, you had a lot of Israelites that lived in Nineveh. But in this day and age, you're going to have some Israelites that come back to the Most High, but the majority of them are going to be destroyed, man. Right? When you go to Tobit, let's go to Tobit, the first chapter. You find out that the kings of Nineveh, or Assyria rather, carried away captive many of the northern kingdom, right? The so-called 10 tribes, right? This is Tobit 1 and 1. The book of the words of Tobit, son of Tobael, the son of Ananael, right? The son of Aduel, the son of Gabiel, of the seed of Asael, of the tribe of Naphtali, who in the time of Enemeneser, right, king of the Assyrians, was led captive out of this which is at the right hand of that city, which is properly called Naphtali, and Galilee above Asher. I, Tobit, have walked all the days of my life in the way of truth and justice, and I did many alms deeds to my brethren and my nation, who came with me to Nineveh and to the land of the Assyrians. You see that? So Tobit was led away captive, and a lot of his brethren, into Nineveh and to the land of the Assyrians. All right, you had a deportation that happened around the time of when you read Second Kings. Right, let's go to Second Kings, the 17th chapter. Right, this is Second Kings chapter 17 and verse, I'll start at 5. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. And the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria, took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria and placed them in Halah and in harbor by the river of Gozan and in the cities of the Medes. So you had Israelites taken captive into Nineveh during the time of Hoshea the king, right? Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 17, right? It's like your 2 Kings chapter 15, right? Bear with me, right? This 2 Kings chapter 15 and verse 19, right? It reads, actually, I want 29, Salaki. 2 Kings 15 and 29. In the days of Pekah, king of Israel, came Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and took Ijon and Abel-Methmaachah and Jonoah and Kadesh and Hazor and Gilead and Galilee, right? Like we read in the book of Tobit, and Galilee, all the land of Naphtali, and carried them captive to Assyria. So this links directly up with the book of Tobit, that you had Israelites that lived in Galilee, lived in Naphtali, and were carried away captive to Nineveh. So 2 Kings 15, 2 Kings 17 and 5 on down, and 2 Kings 17 and 23 are major deportations of slavery done by the Assyrian kings into the land of Assyria, right? Let's see if we can pull up that Assyrian exile. See if they have the map right there of Israel, right? So the Assyrian captivity, and you had 3 major time periods. See that? And this is decent right here. So they have the deportation of Tiglath-Pileser III, which we read about in 2 Kings 17. They have the deportation of Shalmaneser V and the deportation of Sargon II. But they also, what they don't have is the deportation that we read about in 2 Kings 15. Oh, Salakia, this is that, Salakia, right? Tiglath, king of Assyria. This is that deportation. So when you look at this map right here, here's Israel being carried away captive into Nineveh, right? That's that first major deportation from the northern kingdom all the way up into slavery into Nineveh. Just like Jake now. Jake, you're carried captive into modern day Nineveh, right? Now, the modern day Nineveh is Babylon the Great, and you were deported. The only route that you took was the triangular slave trade or the Middle Passage. That's a slave passage that you took to modern day Nineveh, what they call the Middle Passage, right? Here's our deportation into modern day Nineveh via slave ships. You see that? From predominantly West Africa to the islands and to the so-called colonies, and also to Europe, right? Predominantly Western Europe. So you have your Assyrian deportation of the ancient times around 734 to 732 BC. And then you have your modern day deportation to Assyria. We'll prove that America actually is Nineveh or actually is Assyria. All right. Jonah went to prophesy against ancient Nineveh, right? So let's go back to this. Jonah chapter 3 and verse 1. And the word of the Lord came unto Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go unto Nineveh, that great city, and preach unto it the preaching that I bid thee. And we're doing that now. We're going into the end of the world. We're speaking about the judgments, the sins of America that have reached up into heaven. So we're preaching the same preaching that Jonah did. Even Yahushua, he compared this generation to the preaching that Jonah did, right in the book of Matthew. Let's go to Matthew, the 12th chapter, right? Yahushua himself, our Lord, compared these things, man. Right? This Matthew, Slacky, I believe that's what I want. Chapter 12. Bear with me. Right? I'm going to have to just pull it up for sake of time. Right? At the preaching. Here it is. Salakia. Matthew chapter 12, and I'll start at 38. Right? Matthew 12 and 38. Then certain of the scribes and of the Pharisees answered, saying, Master, we would see a sign from thee. But he answered and said unto them, An evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given to it, but the sign of the prophet Jonas. So the Lord compares the sign of the prophet Jonas and the prophesying of Jonas that he did in ancient Nineveh, but he's comparing it to modern day Nineveh, right? For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. And that was a major sign of Jonas. Yahushua speaking of himself being crucified and resurrected. So the same way Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly and came out again, so is Yahushua going to be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth and come out again. Jonah also prophesied against Nineveh. That was a major sign of repentance. but yet the people didn't hearken, right? It's going to tell you that in verse 41. The men of Nineveh shall arise in judgment with this generation and shall condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonas, and behold, a greater than Jonas is here. So you have, again, ancient Nineveh that was prophesied against, and the Israelites that were there, that were carried away captive there, like we read in Tobit, they repented. Even a lot of those heathen that were there, they humbled themselves, right? And the Most High spared them, because you had Israelites that lived in that land. In this life, in this generation, you have a greater than Jonas. You have a greater Jonah. The greater Jonas is Yahushua. And Yahushua sent forth his men. And his men are also likened unto Jonah, prophesied against Nineveh in judgment. So we're doing the exact same preaching, but in a more greater wicked generation, a greater Nineveh, but the men of the Lord are also likened unto a greater than Jonas, because they're preaching the word of Yahushua, right? So let's go back to, that's what the Lord said, there is no new thing under the sun, right? Let's get that real quick, right? I seem to bring this out all the time. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and 15, right? Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 15. That which hath been is now, and that which is to be hath already been, and the Most High requireth that which is past. So not just people come back on the earth, entire kingdoms come back on the earth. Entire spirits come back on the earth. Everything regenerates. There is no new thing under the sun. The kingdoms that have been in time past and how they ruled and their dictatorships and might, that's back on the earth now. Chiefly Nineveh or Assyria is back on the earth as America. Nineveh was the chief capital of the Assyrian Empire. The Lord requires that which is past. So you're going to have more Jonah back on the earth, a greater Jonah. So you're going to have Nineveh back on the earth, right? All these things will happen. Now you can say, well, America's called Babylon the Great, right? How can they be Nineveh? Remember, the Most High deals with spiritual names. Did not the Most High call America spiritual Egypt and spiritual Sodom? So America or Babylon the Great is spiritual Assyria, right? Revelation chapter 11 and verse 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. We keep reading about that great city. Every time we read about Nineveh, we're reading about a great city. We read in Revelation 17, America's that great city. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. So America, they carry the spirit of Sodom through the homosexuality and pride and just outright wickedness. And they carry the spirit of Egypt due to the oppression that they put upon the children of God, right? So you have these spiritual names attached to particular places. So there's nothing strange that America is being called spiritual Nineveh or spiritual Sodom. There's spiritual Egypt, spiritual Sodom, spiritual Babylon, spiritual Rome, right? They're all of these names. You even have Israel, when we go off and we commit sins and these other captivities, the Lord calls us spiritual names, right? Let's go to Ezekiel, right? Chapter 23, right? It's like I want Ezekiel 16. That's what I want, right? Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 16 and verse 3. I'll start at 1, right? Ezekiel 16 and 1. Again, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, cause Jerusalem to know her abominations, and say, Thus saith the Lord God unto Jerusalem, Thy birth and thy nativity is of the land of Canaan. Thy father was an Amorite, and thy mother an Hittite. Was Jacob really an Amorite? No, Jacob was a Hebrew, man. One of the sons of God, right? Was Rachel and Leah Hittites? No. At most, they would be called so-called Syrians, but they were Hebrews as well. But when we go off and follow the ways of these Canaanites and these other nations, the Most High puts those labels on us. We're spiritual Amorites when we go off and follow the gods of Canaan. We're spiritual Hittites when we give our child unto Molech and follow all the abominations the Most High commanded us not to do. So again, there's nothing new about the Most High attaching a spiritual label to a particular people, nation, right? If they do follow the ways of those nations. Same thing with the Greeks. The Lord called us in Colossians, he called us Greeks, Scythians, barbarians, right? This is Colossians chapter 3 and verse 11, right? Where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcision nor uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, bond nor free, but Hamashiach is all and in all. So you can be an Israelite, born out of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's seed, but still be a Greek, right? A Hellen, because you follow the ways of the Greeks. Maybe you wore a toga, maybe you shaved your beard, maybe you wore a laurel around your head. Maybe you went to the temple of Diana of Ephesus. Maybe you ate food sacrificed to idols. Yeah, you're a Greek. Maybe you were a Jew. You were raised up in the temple. You kept the high holy days. You purified yourself according to the law, and you were circumcised the 8th day. Maybe you're a barbarian and you didn't speak Latin or you didn't speak Greek, right, which was the chief language. You were classified as a barbarian or a Scythian, which was like a wild, uncivilized, so-called third world nation, man. These were labels put on Israelites that lived according to these lifestyles, right? So we're completely justified in the scriptures saying America is modern day Nineveh. The so-called white man, he's called an Egyptian in Isaiah the 19th chapter, right? And we may touch on that as well. So we're showing you prophetically that America is Nineveh, all right? And that's what Jonah was preaching to. Jonah 3 and 2. Arise, go into Nineveh, that great city, and preach unto it the preaching that I bid thee. Now, this ancient Nineveh. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh, according to the word of Yahweh. Now, Nineveh was an exceeding great city, 3 days' journey. And Babylon is an exceeding great city. Right? Now, it's not going to take you 3 days to go across Babylon, right? It may or may not. Driving, right? Let's see. From DC to, let's say, LA drive. Let's say if they say 3 days. 39 hours. It's about 3 days, right? So it's about 3 days journey in modern day traveling. Ancient traveling, it was what? They went on foot. Now modern day traveling, which is the car, is still 3 days journey. So if you had to travel, through Nineveh and get to Nineveh and across Nineveh, it was a 3 days journey, right? So Lucky, bear with me. All right, let's pull this back up. Right, so it's still 39 hours, 3 days journey. See that? No new thing is under the sun, bro. All right. And Jonah 3 and 4. And Jonah began to enter into the city a day's journey, and he cried and said, yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. Right? So Nineveh was told that they'll be destroyed in 40 days. So the people of Nineveh believed the Most High and proclaimed the fast and put on sackcloth, from the greatest of them even to the least of them. For the word came unto the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne, and he laid his robe from him, and covered him with sackcloth, and sat in ashes. And he caused it to be proclaimed and published through Nineveh, by the decree of the king and his nobles, saying, let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything, let them not feed nor drink water. And you had heathen kings like Nebuchadnezzar, Cyrus, they all knew about the Most High. The king of Egypt that killed Josiah, he knew about the Most High, right? Even these modern day Babylonians, they know about the Most High, right? So let's jump down. Jonah 3 and 10. And the Most High saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, and the Most High repented of the evil that he said that he would do unto them, and he did it not. Now, did the Most High destroy Nineveh? At that time, he allowed them to live a little bit longer. But eventually, he actually destroyed Nineveh, right? He destroyed ancient Nineveh. Tobit actually said, I believe that the Most High will destroy Nineveh according to the words of Jonah. That was some of the last words that Tobit told his son Tobias on his so-called deathbed, right? Let's get that in the book of Tobit, the 14th chapter, right? This is Tobit, chapter 14 and verse 4. I'll start at 3. And when he was very aged, he called his son and the 6 sons of his son, and said to him, my son, take thy children, for behold, I am aged and am ready to depart out of this life. Go into Media, my son, for I surely believe those things which Jonas the prophet spake of Nineveh. Because Tobit knew about that, man. Tobit was carried away captive to Nineveh. And he believed that the Most High would overthrow it. That it shall be overthrown, and that for a time of peace shall rather be in Media, and that our brethren shall lie scattered in the earth from that good land. And Jerusalem shall be desolate, and the house of the Most High in it shall be burnt and desolate for a time. You see that? So he's prophesying not just that Nineveh is going to be destroyed, but he's also prophesying that the Babylonians are going to come and the Edomites, and they're going to burn the temple down and burn Jerusalem for a period of time. Right? So Tobit is also a prophet. He's prophesying about the destruction of ancient Nineveh, but he's also prophesying in the future about the Babylonians and the Edomites coming and destroying Jerusalem for a time. And then he's going to prophesy in the future, right? And to the time of the end of the world and to the time of modern Nineveh. And Tobit 14 and 5. And that again, the Most High will have mercy on them and bring them again into the land where they shall build a temple. So that happened during the time of Zerubbabel, Joshua, Nehemiah, right? Ezra, from around 539 to 444 BC. That was the time from Cyrus the Great and his decree until the time that Nehemiah was there. So they came back and they built the temple and the walls. But not like to the first, because that temple they built wasn't like the first until the time of that age to be fulfilled. So he prophesied that we would build that temple during the time of Zerubbabel and Joshua until that age be fulfilled, until that world is over, right? So he's speaking about the present evil world, that modern day age. So Tobit isn't just prophesying about Jonah, he's prophesying about everything up until the return of Yahushua. And that's what he's about to say. And afterward, they shall return from all places of their captivity and build up Jerusalem gloriously, and the house of the Most High shall be built in it forever with a glorious building, as the prophets have spoken thereof. So Tobit prophesied of, again, Nineveh being destroyed. Then he prophesied of Babylon coming to destroy Jerusalem. Then he prophesied of the men of Israel building a temple. Then he said that age is going to be fulfilled. That world, those days, the last days, they're going to be done. So he prophesied of Yahushua. Then he said he prophesied of us coming out of Nineveh and all these captivities to build up the kingdom of heaven. Right? So Tobit wasn't just a blind man walking around giving alms, man. Right? Tobit was a prophet, and he prophesied of this world, and he prophesied also of the world to come. Right? So let's go into the book of Isaiah, the 10th chapter. Let's go into this prophecy of Tobit of Nineveh being destroyed and Israel coming out of Nineveh and these other captivities and building up the kingdom of heaven. This is a major prophecy that Tobit had. Now, Tobit actually, or Tobias, actually saw Nineveh be destroyed, huh? Right? Or they heard about it, rather. This is Tobit chapter 14 and 15. But before he died, he heard of the destruction of Nineveh, which was taken by Nebuchadnezzar and Ahasuerus, or Assyrians. It's really supposed to be Cyaxares, right? And before his death, he rejoiced over Nineveh. You see that? He rejoiced over Nineveh. So Tobias heard of the destruction of Nineveh that his father prophesied. And we're going to hear of the destruction of Nineveh. We're going to see the destruction of modern day Nineveh. All right. And again, modern day Nineveh is Babylon the Great. The same prophecy that Tobit said that we will return from all the places of our captivity and build up the kingdom of heaven with a glorious building as the prophets have spoken thereof. Right? Let's go to the book of Isaiah. Let's go into spiritual Nineveh. Right? Let's go to Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 5. Or the spiritual Assyrian. Because remember, the Assyrian is or Nineveh rather, is the chief capital of the Assyrian Empire. So they're one and the same. And the Assyrian is speaking about the so-called white man. Now you can say, well, no, it says Assyrian. You got Esau, you got the Assyrian. Well, Esau spiritually is the Assyrian, right? The Assyrian is a man of might, a man of power. All right. The Assyrian is a violent man. And that their history speaks for that, which we'll touch on. Right? O Assyrian, this is Isaiah 10 and 5. O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation. So the Assyrian, in this context, is speaking about Esau. Esau is the rod of his anger, meaning when the Most High is angry at the children of Israel, he'll use Esau to enslave us, punish us, rape, rob, and murder, and chastise us and vex us with his staff. His staff are his weapons that he uses. Rather he'll lynch you, rather he'll crucify you in the time of the Romans, rather this man will inject you and decapitate you and eat you. That's the staff in their hand, their weapons and their tools of torture. It's the Most High's indignation. I will send him against an hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath will I give him a charge, to take the spoil and to take the prey, and to tread them down like the mire of the streets. And the Lord sent them against us. We are that hypocritical nation that the Most High sent them against. How are we hypocrites? Because we said in Deuteronomy, here's a clear statement of hypocrisy right here. First, well, let's go to Exodus 24. Here's clear hypocrisy. Right? This is the book of Exodus, chapter 24 and verse 7. Right? This is going back to the time in the wilderness. And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people. And they said, all that Yahweh hath said will we do and be obedient. Now, how long did that last? How long did that last, saying, well, all that the Most High said we're going to do and be obedient? Well, not too long after, you had golden calves set up, where they said, behold, these be thy gods, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. And they made a feast to the Lord. And the children of Israel sat down to eat and drink, and they rose up to play, as it is written. So that's hypocrisy. So due to this hypocrisy of us, the Most High raised up Esau. That's what we always have to tell our people, man, that Esau is nothing but a belt, a tool, right? He's nothing to be feared. He's nothing to sit there and laud and worship and, try to praise. This man is nothing but a belt, right? Nothing at the switch that your grandmother would use, man. Might throw a damn sandal or something at you. That's all he is. He is the rod of the Most High's anger. Verse 7, Isaiah 10 and 7. Howbeit he meaneth not so, neither doth his heart think so, but it is in his heart to destroy and cut off nations, not a few. So the Lord, what he's saying is, he put the spirit in Esau to conquer the earth. That's what it means, howbeit he meaneth not so, neither doth in his heart does he think so. Because he's not doing this of his own will. he works and he's heavily inspired by Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. He's just being controlled. And the Most High is using him to cut off many nations. Verse 8, for he said, are not my princes altogether kings? It's not Karno as Carchemish. It's not Hamath as Arpad. It's not Samaria as Damascus. As my hand hath found the kingdoms of the idols, whose graven images did excel them of Jerusalem and of Samaria. Shall I not, as I have done unto Samaria and her idols, so do to Jerusalem and her idols? Right, because the northern kingdom was carried away captive. Now the Most High said, okay, I'm going to send them against you. Right? Wherefore it shall come to pass that when the Lord hath performed his whole work upon Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria and the glory of his high looks. So what the Lord is saying is, once our captivity is coming to an end and the elect are repenting and the 1/3 is coming back to the Most High, at that same time, the Most High is going to start punishing the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria. And the fruit are all of their labors, all of their works, their technology, sorcery, witchcraft, lies, deception. The Most High is going to punish that. Verse 13, for he said, and this is what Esau says, by the heart, it's like by the strength of my hand, I have done it. And by my wisdom, for I am prudent, and I have removed the bounds of the people and have robbed their treasures. And I have put down the inhabitants like a valiant man. That's what Esau says, man. He says, by the strength of my hand, I'm the one who's in control. I am God. I am the angels. I'm Yahushua. I say the sun rises, the sun sets. I can make fake suns, fake clouds, fake rain. I'm the Most High. I can heal man. I give man knowledge. I can create man in laboratories in a damn petri dish. I can do everything that the Most High can do. I can create. I can kill. I make peace. I create evil. That's what he's saying. I, the Lord, or I, Esau, do all these things, man. Should there be evil in a city and have Esau not done it? So he's taking all these scriptures where the Lord does things and he's fitting himself in them with his own wisdom. And he removed the bounds of the people. What does that mean? He removed the bounds of the people. How come the Moabites aren't in their original land? How come the Edomites aren't in Mount Seir? How come the Israelites aren't in Israel? Because he removed everybody's boundaries, man. I said, okay, I'm going to make the Egyptians, you're going to go here. Okay, the Israelites are going to be over here. Okay, the Moabites, we're going to put you over here. Okay, the Edomites, okay, we get Europe. That's wicked, man. The Lord said, thou shalt not remove the landmark. Paraphrasing. Right? Verse 14. And my hand hath found as a nest the riches of the people. And as one that gathereth eggs to the left, have I gathered all the earth. And there was none that moved the wing or opened the mouth or peeped. So the Assyrian of today's time, he has robbed the entire earth and conquered the whole earth, just like the ancient Assyrian. Right? Where is the map? The ancient Assyrian, this was the known world at the time, Mesopotamia. And just like in the ancient world, he conquered the whole earth. Right now, he conquered the whole earth. Look at the so-called white man's military bases. Right? Let's see if we can pull this up. Military bases around the world. Then we'll pull up their embassies. So if you got a military base of another nation in your land, sure a sign that you're conquered. You see that? So they have one in just about every continent, huh? Asia, Australia, Africa, Europe, North America, South America. U.S. military presence around the world. The United States has about 750 bases in at least 80 countries around the world. It has approximately 173,000 troops deployed in 159 countries. See that? So you can't get around that, man. They got bases in Canada. They have 13 bases in Turkey, 44 in Italy. They have 119 bases in Germany, 120 bases in Japan. This is madness. They even have 10 bases in Saudi Arabia. How did they get into Saudi Arabia? So this links up with the modern day Assyrian, man, who has conquered all the earth. And a lot of these soldiers, they're known for torturing people, molesting children, sex trafficking, right? Just outright murder. That's what the so-called white man does, man. I saw a picture of the so-called Jew where they showed this picture. A lot of these pictures be graphic, what they do to these Palestinians. They straight ran this dude over, man. He looked like mashed potatoes on the ground, right? He looked like mashed potatoes. They just ran him over with the tank. It'd be babies with their face blown off, you know? And I don't have a weak stomach, man. I'll see those things and I'll look at them, right? So you see these different images. That's that same spirit that the ancient Assyrians had. The ancient Assyrians had that military might, torture, no mercy spirit, right? The Lord said in Isaiah 47 that thou hast showed them no mercy. This Isaiah chapter 47, Slakia. Isaiah chapter 47, and I'll start at verse 6. I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand. Thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke. And that was a pure, or a key characteristic rather, of the Assyrian Empire. No mercy, torture, kill you, document it, and write it up. And they would make different statues and reliefs and sculptures about the atrocities that they did to the other nations. And they boasted about it. That's what America does, right? This is, pull this up. So here's this book, right? This is PDF. It's called The Grisly Assyrian Record of Torture and Death. And this is one of the chief reasons why America, or the so-called white man, is called the Assyrian, due to their military might and their pride and their no mercy on how they destroy and conquer and beat down the other nations. And Jeremiah, they're called the hammer of the whole earth, right? So I didn't make this up. This is from the Biblical Archaeology Society by Erica Blebley or Trump. All right. So I'm gonna jump down. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but even right here, you can see the different tortures. They would skin people alive. They would cut off your nose, your ears. They would take your skin and peel it off of you while you're alive, and they would put it on a wall as wallpaper. So they had that. America has that no mercy military spirit. So I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I want to jump down to about page 3. So they give you a list of some of these kings. You can read about some of these kings in the scriptures: Salmanassar, Tiglath-Pileser III, Sargon II, Sennacherib, Esarhaddon, Shurbanipal. Right? You can read about some of those kings in the scriptures. But let's jump down. I want to get page 3. Okay, it says, 2 principal tasks of an Assyrian king were to engage in military exploits and to erect public buildings. And that's like America. America has been at war, I believe, 90% of the time since they've been a nation. So let's pull it up. How many years has America... I'll keep that one up. How many years has America not been at war? See that? Since 1776, the U.S. has only been at peace 17 years. And that's not a consecutive 17 years. That's here and there. Maybe 2 here, 1 here, 1 here, 3 here, 4 here. Right? So they have that same spirit where their main mission is military conquest. Two principal tasks, or the two principal tasks of an Assyrian king was to engage in military exploits, just like these modern day presidents and world leaders, and to erect public buildings, skyscrapers, capitol buildings, banks, monuments, statues. Same thing. Both of these tasks were regarded as religious duties. They were, in effect, acts of obedience toward the principal god of Assyria. And that's what Esau. Remember, Esau, his principal god is what? Satan. So his military conquest, he's doing it in the name of Satan. His god is his power. His god is his might. That's the exact spirit that the Assyrians moved in. Huh? Let's go to the book of Daniel. So we're doing a comparison and showing that America is Nineveh, right? So like I want to go to Daniel, the 11th chapter. And Nineveh was overthrown, and we're going to show you prophetically that Yahweh Shah is going to overthrow modern day Nineveh, right? This is Daniel chapter 11 and verse 36, right? So this links up with the article where they said these were religious duties. The Assyrians' military conquest, erecting public buildings, destroying the earth was part of their religion. It was part of their god that they worshipped, right? And that's the same thing that the Greeks, they had the Roman god, or it's like the Greek god Ares. The Romans went to war in the name of Mars. The police force, they do it in their god. America, they do it now in the name of Satan, guns, oils, and drugs. Daniel 11 and 36. And the king, this is the king of the north, which spiritually is America, shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. And a so-called white man, he puts himself above every god, huh? Above every god, above his own gods that he worshipped, above Allah. He puts himself above these so-called Christian God, white Jesus, his image of God, right? Aphrodite and Cupid and Buddha. Reading on. And he speaks marvelous things against the God of gods. He speaks against the Most High. That links up with Revelation, the 13th chapter, right? Let's get Revelation chapter 13. That the modern day Assyrian will speak great words against the Most High. Revelation chapter 13 and verse 6, or 13 and 5. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 40 and 2 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against the Most High, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. So the Roman Empire did the same thing back then that they are doing now. They open their mouth and they speak against the God of gods and blaspheme his name by saying that they are the God. They have the Pope. They have authority over the scriptures. You can do this. You can get rid of your child, right? And abort him. You can be a sodomite and the Pope is going to bless them. They do things and they blaspheme the name of God, right? Let's go back to Daniel 11 and 37. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God. But he shall magnify himself above all. And that's Esau, right? Chiefly the so-called white man in America. He doesn't regard the God of his fathers. Who's the God of his fathers? Jupiter, Ares, Apollos, Aphrodite, Hades, Neptune, Poseidon, all of these Greco-Roman gods. Even he had his gods when he ruled as the Egyptians. He had Serapis Christus. Right? Let's pull up some of these gods that he worshipped. Greek pantheon. So part of the Assyrian, what he does, he conquers in the name of his God. And he defies other gods. See that? Poseidon, Athena, Zeus, Demeter, Hera, Aphrodite, Ares, Hermes, Artemis. These are some of the gods that Esau worshipped in time past that he doesn't worship anymore. And the Roman gods are the same thing. Jupiter, Juno, Neptune, Minerva, Mars, Venus, Apollos, etc. These are your Roman gods. He's not bowing down to these gods. He had gods before that. He has Serapis Christians. These are the gods that he's not serving anymore. And this was set up by the Ptolemies, which was a mixture of an Egyptian god and a so-called white man, right? Serapis Christians. How many people physically are worshiping Serapis Christians, right? Physically. Oh, I got to go to the church. We worship Serapis Christians. So no, they don't serve the gods of their fathers. And before all of that, Esau had his own god called Quos. The god of Edom. See that? The Edomite god Quos. How many people are worshiping Quos? Right? The Edomite god. That was their original god. Why the Bible is mute about Quos, the Edomite god? That's their original god that they worshipped in the time of Amaziah. Okay, when you go to 2 Chronicles, which we'll get briefly. Right, this is the god that they worshipped. 2 Chronicles, chapter 25 and verse 14. Right, 2 Chronicles 25 and 14. Now it came to pass, after that Amaziah was come from the slaughter of the Edomites, that he brought the gods of the children of Seir. And he wasn't talking about Zeus. Zeus wasn't around. Pavlos wasn't around. Serapis Christus wasn't around. He was worshiping Quos and other gods, and set them up to be his gods, and bowed down himself before them, and burned incense unto them. So when you read Daniel, the 11th chapter, and he's speaking about neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, that covers centuries of gods that he worshiped. The so-called white man always has a new God, right? Nor the desire of women. He doesn't regard women or things that women laud and praise. All he wants is power. That's why it says, nor regard any God, he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate, meaning in his kingdom, shall he honor the God of forces. And a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and pleasant things. So he honors the God of forces. The God of forces is a God that the so-called white man lauds and praises. This is part of his religion, right? The God of forces is the God of power, wealth, might, the sword. That's who he worships. He worships power and might, like we read in Isaiah 10. That's how he gets his gold and his oil and his drugs. He doesn't serve an actual God. He's infatuated with power and might. He has a God-like complex. That's the God of forces, the God of fortresses, might, power, and strength. Thus shall he do at the most strongholds, meaning he's going to conquer many nations with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. And he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. And he split up the earth like a piece of pot. He gave the Germans certain lands. He gave the French certain lands. He gave the Moabites certain lands. He set you up in your ghettos and your slums and your hoods. If you get if you're allied to the so-called white man in America, you can get a portion of his pot. And he'll divide the land up for gain. So the point is, this is the same spirit of the Assyrians. Their military conquest was part of their religion. America's the same way. They conquer these nations, not in the name of democracy, despite what they tell you in the news, They want to, save them from terrorists and Al Qaeda and ISIS. They're really conquering these nations, and it's part of their religion. And they're serving the God of forces. And that ties directly in to what the Syrians were into, right? So I'm going to read this again. The two principal tasks of an Assyrian king were to engage in military exploits and to erect public buildings, right? Rather, he erects embassies, military bases, statues, monuments. Both of these tasks were regarded as religious duties. So that's part of his religion. They were, in effect, acts of obedience toward the principal gods of Assyria. Just like Esau, he's obedient to the God of forces. So he has to sacrifice to this God gold. In order to keep his power, he has to kill. Every God requires sacrifice. So the power that Esau gets from Satan, he has to give it sacrifices. He does child sacrifice. He brings it gold, oil, heroin, children, land. He has to continually appease this God that he serves that gives him power by killing and destroying the nations. Those are his sacrifices to the God of forces, right? That's why the Assyrians were the same way. They were acts of obedience toward the principal gods of Assyria. So they had to keep killing to obtain that power. Right, let's read on. The historical records of ancient Assyria consist of tablets, prisms, and cylinders of clay and alabaster. They bear inscriptions and cuneiform, wedge-shaped impressions representing, for the most part, syllables. In addition, we have inscribed obelisks and stelae, as well as inscriptions of stone slabs that lined the walls and covered the floors of Assyrian palaces and temples, right? Now, here's the point. In all of these inscriptions, the king stands at the top of the hierarchy, the most powerful person. He himself represents the state, like here now, man. Right? America, they're really represented by the so-called Illuminati, these rich elite bankers. They represent the state. Your governor or senator, they don't represent the state. The president, he doesn't represent the state. The state is owned by an elite aristocracy and oligarchy that enforce the laws through the supply of money and power in America, right? And that's the modern day king of Babylon. You read about that man in Isaiah 14th chapter, right? So he himself represents the state. All public acts are recorded as his achievements. All acts worthy of being recorded are attributed only to the Assyrian king, the focus of the ancient world. Now, here's some of the torture tactics, right? Look at this. So you didn't mess around with the Assyrian kings, man. They'll kill you. They'll impale you on stakes. You'll take a spear, thrust you through, man. These spears have to been about maybe 10 feet tall or so. And you'll be hanging up there bleeding to death. They'll impale you. A lot of these modern day American soldiers, they were caught torturing people. They was torturing people in Iraq, right? That was a big deal, man. They tortured the Israelites. They're well known for torturing the Ishmaelites, the Elamites. They do the exact same thing. All right. That's why in the Bible they're called the Assyrian. Not because the Most High didn't have nothing to do. Okay, well, we got the Assyrian. No, from their religion to how they do the military exploits, which is part of their religion, to the king having power, to their cruelty and torture. All of that is what America's about. That's what Nineveh was about. All right. So let's read on. So that's one of their what they call bas relief or relief sculptures or paintings. So here's the caption. Impaled on stakes, 2 Assyrian soldiers erect a stake with an impaled naked man beside 2 others. The heads of these captured men in Lachish, right, sag forward. So these are Jews. Lachish is a city in Judea. You see that? So you look up Lachish, It is a city in Judah. See that? Southwest of Jerusalem. So those men impaled on stakes were Jews, so-called black men, which is reminiscent to a modern day lynching. All it is a modern day lynching, right? That's all this is. If you look up a lynching from the 1700s and compare it to this, it's the same thing. Only thing is back then they impaled you, where now the modern day Assyrian, they lynch you. And they made a party out of it. They would eat and they would drink, and it would be like a social event, like a ceremonial thing. They would purify themselves and come and watch the Jews get lynched or impaled. Right? So it says the heads of these captured men of Lachish sag forward, suggesting that they are already dead. This detail comes from a series of reliefs. The relief is that sculpture that we just showed, found at Nineveh, in which Sennacherib recorded the exploits of his invasion of Judah in 701 BC. Lachish was among 46 cities he conquered. Let's go to 2 Kings. Let's prove that. All right, so that backs up the scriptures, man. That was about 46 cities that he conquered. 2 Kings chapter 18 and verse 13. Now in the 14th year of King Hezekiah, did Sennacherib, king of Assyria, come up against all the fenced cities of Judah and took them. And Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent to the king of Assyria to Lachish, saying, I have offended, return from me. Which thou puttest on me will I bear. And the king of Assyria appointed unto Hezekiah, king of Judah, 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. So this is real, man. So that relief that we showed you with the impaling of the Jews is actual biblical history. That's the precepts to back it up. 2 Kings 18, 13 through 14, which is equivalent to a modern day lynching, right? Let's pull up a modern day lynching. Right? That's all it is. It's nothing new. No new thing under the sun. See that? Now you compare this to this, man. Oh man, I gotta go back. Salakia. Let's go back. All right, bear with me. Right, you compare that to this, it's the same thing. Right, so let's jump down. Let's get a little bit more out of this and we'll move on. I want to jump down. Right, bear with me. Now, here's a part I wanted to get. Okay, here's one of his quotes, right? In one case, when a city resisted as long as possible, instead of immediately submitting, Ashur-Nasir-pal proudly records his punishment. So they had this siege on the city, and the people said, we're not submitting. So here's what the king of Assyria did. Here's his quote. I flayed as many nobles as had rebelled against me, and draped their skins over the pile of corpses. That's wicked, man. No mercy. Skinning people alive and then throwing the piles of skin on a corpse. Some I spread out within a pile. Some I erected on stakes upon the pile. I flayed many right through my land and draped their skins over the wall. So this guy's off, man. Right? The account was probably intended not only to describe what had happened, but also to frighten anyone who might dare to resist. And that's what America does. They'll drop bombs on Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and say, look, if you buck up against me, we're going to drop bombs on you. They'll break the strongest man and lynch him in front of everybody to instill fear. The Ninevites, or the people of Assyria, They were heavy into psychological warfare. Read 2 Kings, man. When they tried to do psychological warfare against the Jews and incite them to riot against Hezekiah. Right? So they were big into that witchcraft. Here's another one of his quotes. To suppress his enemies was the king's divine task, supported by the gods. He always had to be victorious in battle and to punish disobedient people. Here's what he said. I failed, meaning I cut down 50 of their fighting men with the sword, burnt 200 captives from them, and defeated in a battle of the plain 330 troops, or 332 troops. With their blood, I dyed the mountains red like red wool, and the rest of them, the ravines and torrents of the mountain swallowed. I carried off captives and possessions from them. I cut off the heads of their fighters and built there with a tower before the city. I burned their adolescent boys and girls. So these guys were just no mercy, man. I could read in Isaiah. He built a tower with heads. Whether this is embellished or not. And he burnt adolescent boys and girls. Now they say this one is worse. And strife and conflict, I besieged and conquered the city. I felled 3,000 of their fighting men with the sword. I captured many troops alive. I cut off of some their arms and hands. I cut off of others their noses and ears and extremities. I gouged out the eyes of many troops. I made one pile of the living and one of heads. I hung their heads on trees around the city. And when you read the book of Tobit, Tobit had to deal with that, man. Remember, the king would come through and he would impale and strangle and lynch a lot of the Jews. Right? Let's get that in the book of Tobit. Right? So again, this shows you the nature of the so-called white man and how it's similar to the modern day Assyrian. And we're going to get the judgment that's going to befall them. Right? This is Tobit. Let's see where I'm at the time. All right, good with time. This is Tobit, chapter 2 and verse 1, right? Tobit 2 and 1. Remember, Tobit is a captive in the Assyrian Empire. And all of the torture and all of the devices we read that they did, Tobit had to deal with in captivity. Just like we have to deal with the lynching in captivity. A brother just got lynched the other day, man. I think it was in California or Mississippi, right? Same thing. Anybody that resists this guy, he'll get you, man. Right? He'll find out where you are and he'll get you. Tobit 2 and 1. Now, when I was come home again, and my wife Anna was restored unto me, with my son Tobias in the feast of Pentecost, which is the holy feast of the 7 weeks, there was a good dinner prepared for me, and the which I sat down to eat. And when I saw abundance of meat, I said to my son, go and bring what poor man soever thou shalt find out of our brethren, who is mindful of the Lord, and lo, I tarry for thee. But he came again and said, Father, one of our nation is strangled and is cast out into the marketplace. See that? What is that? What is that reminiscent of? One of our nation is strangled and is cast out into the marketplace. Just like the modern day Nineveh. Right? So they got the same. Oh, let me get this. See that? Here's the marketplace. You see the feet of a Jew cast out in the marketplace, man. One of our nation is strangled, just like ancient Nineveh. Same thing with modern day Nineveh. One of our nation is strangled and is cast out into the marketplace. Right? So back then, they would impale you. Here, they would strangle you and cast you into the marketplace where everybody can see it. That's why the scriptures say there is no new thing under the sun. You have ancient Nineveh, you have modern day Nineveh, huh? Right? Now, our people are in modern day Assyria or modern day Nineveh. And it was prophesied by many prophets, man. This Hosea chapter 9 and 3. So the strangling, the torture, the impaling that was done by them back then, we're dealing with it now. Right? Let me see if I believe that was all I wanted on that. Right? I wanted to bring this out too. You have American soldiers, they're known for torture as well, for torturing like the Assyrians. See that? What did American soldiers do to Iraqi prisoners? Really, where's the article? What they did to the so-called black men? That should be the number one link on there. What did the modern day Nineveh or Assyrians do to the so-called white man? But they want to talk about the Elamites and the Ishmaelites, right? Nevertheless, it says, and what happened haunts former detainees. American troops stripped Iraqi prisoners naked. They leashed them and forced them into contorted or I don't even know if I could throw this word out there. They might flag the channel. Into lewd positions. NPR's Ruth Sherlock has this report from Baghdad. So they was freaking off, man. That same spirit of Nineveh, torture, conquer, kill, rob, murder. Stripping them naked and forcing them into contorted, lewd positions. That's sodomy freakism, man. Right? In the United States, 11 soldiers, this is from the NPR, were eventually convicted in 2006 of crimes at Abu Ghraib, Lynedey, England. One of the soldiers, who Majali says abused him, was sentenced to 3 years in prison for charges including committing an indecent act and maltreating detainees. You got Guantanamo Bay, right? Many, and these are all of the same things, right? Many of the released prisoners have complained of enduring beatings, sleep deprivation, prolonged constraint, and uncomfortable positions. He used to always like to tie you up and put you in an uncomfortable position, man. Prolonged hooding, cultural and lewd humiliation. Enemas, this is wickedness. I'm not going to go into enemas. You can look it up on your own. Enemas, as well as other forced injections and other physical and psychological mistreatment during their detention in Camp Delta, right? Now here's another one. Did the United States bury Iraqi soldiers alive? And this is all of just what we know that came to light. When these soldiers go to other lands, it's way worse. So a lot of people, they come back and you give them, Veterans Day and employee discount. If you're a soldier, if you want to travel, you get 50% off of your flight. You could cut in line in McDonald's to get a Big Mac, with an extra large fry, because you're a veteran. You're a soldier. You fought for your country. These soldiers, man, they be popping each other, They be going and molesting these children. They be torturing people. They be freaking off, kicking down doors, man, taking a woman captive, bringing them back to the barracks, killing the men off. Stop believing that these soldiers are of God. They're God ordained, and they're going there to save them and give them a civilized life and teach them how not to be a third world country and save them from disease and civil war and crime. That's the propaganda of these elites. And a lot of people, they buy into it, man. These demons be over there causing hell, man. They be over there wreaking havoc. So it says, and even to have this question be a topic of consideration is off, man. Did the United States soldiers bury Iraqi soldiers alive? The U.S. forces charged the Iraqi lines with M1 Abrams tanks, modified with minesweeping plows, and M728 combat engineered vehicles, which buried the trench lines, and in many cases, buried Iraqi troops alive, the number of which was estimated to be in the thousands. That's wicked. When did the Most High say, okay, take your enemy and just bury him alive? Thousands of them buried him alive. They probably gagged him. They probably popped him, tied him up, dig the big pit, threw him in the pit, and buried him alive, man. Right? So these devils, and they did far worse to us, man. If they did this to the nations, imagine what they did to the children of Israel, whom they hate with a perpetual hatred. Right? So that's why, again, this shows you that we're in modern day Nineveh. That same torture that we went into and cutting off tongues and eyes that the Assyrians did, they're doing it today in these last days. The same lynching, the same killing, the same fighting in the name of your God, they're doing it all now. Right? You're in modern day Assyria. So to the point of this article, is America the modern Nineveh? Come on, we're showing you historically, we're showing you through artwork and reliefs and sculptures. We're showing you the correlation, and more importantly, we're going in the Bible, right? Let's go to Hosea. We're going into the prophecy, chapter 9 and verse 3. Right? Hosea 9 and 3. They shall not dwell in Yahweh's land, but Ephraim shall return to Egypt, and they shall eat unclean things in Assyria. Now, when you get the understanding, you find out that Egypt and Assyria are used in tandem one with another. And Egypt and Assyria, they represent our captivities. So don't just look at certain scriptures where Egypt and Assyria are always mentioned together and think it to be literal, right? Egypt and Assyria, and we're going to go through the precepts to let the Most High be true and every man a liar, and speaking about our many captivities, right? Egypt is the first captivity, major captivity in exile, and Assyria was a major captivity, right? And deportation. So Egypt and Assyria, really, on a spiritual level, they can also and will represent America. This is modern day Egypt. This is modern day Assyria, right? So let's read it again. They shall not dwell in the Lord's land, but Ephraim shall return to Egypt. And where's the account of the northern kingdom being judged and carried away into Egypt? Never happened. Then we put the map up. Where's the map? They went north and they went into captivity. Where's the account of them going into where the Ephraim was carried away captive and brought into Egypt? When Hosea was prophesied, it never happened. So we know that's not a literal Egypt. It's not a literal Syria. It's speaking about our many captivities. All right? It's speaking about our many captivities. So let's go back to this. Ephraim shall return to Egypt. That's why you have Northern Kingdom in Puerto Rico, right? Which is a territory of Egypt. And all the Northern Kingdom, they're here. They return to Egypt. And they shall eat unclean things in Assyria. Yeah, pork, shrimp, crab, lobster, food with blood in it, GMO food, pesticides, artificial. We're eating unclean things in modern day Assyria. Man, we don't know what the hell we're eating in modern day Assyria. We don't know what we're drinking, man. Right? I mean, this is a huge, huge curse, right? Let's go to the book of Zechariah, chapter 10. Right? Here's another account of Assyria and Egypt being used in tandem to speak about our captivities as a whole. Zechariah chapter 10 and verse 10. Here's a future prophecy. I will bring them again also out of the land of Egypt and gather them out of Assyria. And I will bring them into the land of Gilead and Lebanon, and place shall not be found for them. Right? So the Most High is speaking about us being taken out of captivity. Now, is the Most High only going to take us out of actual Egypt and actual of Assyria? No. If you were to take this literal, that means nobody's going to be delivered in America. Nobody's going to be delivered in Europe. Nobody's going to be delivered in whoever's scattered in Asia. It's just everybody in Egypt, out there in Africa, and Assyria. Is that in alignment with every other prophecy? No. That's why precept must be upon precept. Otherwise, if you don't have a mind of prophecy, you'll take this literal and you'll be overthrown. When the Most High say he's going to bring us out of the land of Egypt and gather them out of Assyria, speaking about the different lands of the earth. And America is our chief captivity, or chief Assyria, our chief Egypt. The Lord said, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Right? And this is Assyria. Right? So let's read on. Let's move on. Let's go to the book of Ezekiel 23. Right? So the same thing we did in captivity, trying to be like the Assyrians, is what we do now as well. Right? We had this strange, wicked affinity to want to be like these other nations. Like now, Jake, you want to get blonde hair, blue. You got people getting eye tattoos. Now there's a thing where you can tattoo your pupils. It's beyond contact, but you can tattoo your pupils blue. You got a lot of Benjamites and Levites and Judites, bleaching their skin, loving the so-called white man's philosophies, religions, politics. That's nothing new. We've always had this desire to be like the Assyrians. And we'll read that in Ezekiel chapter 23 and I'll start at 5. Now, this is speaking about the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. All right. So you have the southern kingdom, who's Aholah, and the northern kingdom, which is Aholabah. Right. This is a parable about two women, two sisters, who defile themselves in spiritual fornication with other nations. All right. This is Ezekiel chapter 23 and verse 4. I'll start at 4. And the names of them were Aholah the elder, and Aholabah her sister, and they were mine, and they bare sons and daughters. Thus were their names. Samaria is Aholah, and Jerusalem is Aholabah. Right? So that's the key when you go through this breakdown, this parable. And Aholah played the harlot when she was mine, and she doted on her lovers, on the Assyrians, her neighbors. You see that? So back then, the northern kingdom, they were following the gods of the Assyrians, trying to be like the so-called white man. Same thing that's going on now. Jake is still trying to dote upon her lover. They have this lover with the Assyrian. Now, wasn't the Assyrian torturing them, killing them, impaling them, murdering them? But that Stockholm syndrome did not go away. That spirit is still in our people today. They're still playing the harlot and doting upon their lovers, the Assyrians, right? Loving their ideas, loving their system, loving their culture, their holidays, right? Which were clothed with blue, captains and rulers, all of them desirable young men, horsemen riding upon horses, right? So they love their top men, celebrities and athletes and military men and politicians. Our people love those people, man. They're watching the Grammys, they're looking to vote, they're trying to see who's going to rule over them next. Same thing we were doing back then. They're captains and rulers and the young men. Eve was into that, man. Jake was into that. That shows you that this is modern day Assyria. Verse 7. Thus she committed her whoredoms with them, with all them that were the chosen men of Assyria, and with all of whom she doted, with all their idols, she defiled herself. And we defile ourselves with Christianity, Islam, the Pope, wicked Catholic priests, politicians and governors and presidents. You got Jake saying I'm voting for Trump because he got these shoes out. Well, I mean, that's this, man. You got people on the news. I saw this clip. They said, well, black people, they're going to vote for Trump because they love sneakers. They love those shoes. And you had a lot of Jake saying, yeah, we do love those shoes. So what? We're going to vote for Trump. People love the chosen men of Assyria. You love their philosophies. You love their ideologies. And you're committing spiritual fornication with this nation, man. When your true husband is supposed to be the Most High. So you were sent to eat unclean things in Assyria, sent to be captive here, and you're falling in love with their gods like you did some 2,500 or so odd years ago, man, doing the exact same thing. And you were sent here to serve a captivity. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 52, right? Isaiah chapter 52 and verse 4. For thus saith the Lord God, my people went down aforetime into Egypt to sojourn there, and the Assyrian oppressed them without cause. Who's the Assyrian oppressing us without cause? The so-called white man. Because the ancient Egyptian, he's called the Assyrian, and the so-called white man, he's also called the Assyrian. And we're being oppressed, man. Read Deuteronomy 28. Read verses 16 through 68. Read Deuteronomy 28, 29. Read Deuteronomy chapter 28, 46 through 49. Read Deuteronomy 28, 68, 32, 16, 17. Right? Read these curses about us being oppressed without cause. Oppression is happening like it happened during the time of Tobit. In the time of Tobit, they forcibly took all the Tobit goods away, man. The Assyrians. They took his wife and his son away from him, man. Like the CPS, and they got now they got the APS. They'll take your woman away from him. Adult Protective Services. They'll knock on the door, right? 11 at night and say, we're getting complaints, calls, whatever, and they'll take your woman away from him. CPS, that Edomite, she'll come with that clipboard. We're here to inspect your house, and right, they're looking around and they're trying to figure out what's going on. They'll take your children. They take all your wealth away from you. Same thing they did to Tobit. They lynching you. Same thing. Right? So we're being oppressed without cause in the land of what? Our enemies, man. Right? Let's go to Isaiah. And there's a judgment coming to these nations, man. To modern day Assyria for this. This is Isaiah chapter 19 and verse. We'll start at. This whole thing is good. I'm going to start at 19, right? Isaiah 19 and 19. And that day shall there be an altar to Yahweh in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord. So in these last days, the men of the Lord are building a spiritual altar. That's not somewhere in Chicago or Boston or Miami. That is an actual spiritual altar to make spiritual sacrifices to Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. And the only ones that can put sacrifice on the altar are the priests. Who's the modern day priest? The priest after the order of Melchizedek, under Yahushua. So in Babylon the Great, we're building an altar and a pillar to put these sacrifices up to the Most High. Right? Verse 20. And it shall be for a sign and for a witness unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. For they shall cry there, for they shall cry unto Yahweh because of the oppressors, right? Like the Assyrian that we read about in Isaiah 52 and 4. And he shall send them a savior and a great one, and he shall deliver them. So he's going to sing Yahweh. And the Lord shall be known to Egypt, and the Egyptians shall know Yahweh in that day, and shall do sacrifice and oblation. Yea, they shall vow a vow unto the Lord and perform it. And this is where a lot of people get tripped up. They say, well, is the Lord actually coming to save the Egyptians? No, these Egyptians that's going to be known to the Lord and that's going to do sacrifice and vow a vow are the Israelites. Right? If you dwell in America right now, you are an Egyptian. Just like everybody was a Roman. Everybody was an Assyrian. Tobit was an Assyrian. Why? Because he dwelt in Assyria. Right? He had to take on that name. We're Americans. We're Egyptians. We had those names ascribed to us due to our captivity. How the hell is the actual Egyptians going to finally know the Lord? Where's the other prophecies on that? You would think if that was the case, Isaiah went rogue. He went AWOL and just started prophesying his own thing. Because there's no other prophet that prophesies that the Egyptians, they finally get to know the Lord. When the Egyptians repented and they started serving the Most High. No, it's speaking about we are called the Egyptians. Because we were sent to Egypt on ships and we were forced to become Egyptians. Right? Let's read on. And the Lord shall smite Egypt. He shall smite and heal it, and they shall return to the Lord. and he shall be entreated of them and heal them. Now, is that talking about America? Okay, the Lord going to destroy America with missiles, then he's going to heal it. He's going to send the angels with the fire extinguishers. They're going to be floating. They're going to have a fire hose, and they're going to be putting out the fire of America. Then they're going to angels. They're going to put on their hard hats, and you have a foreman with a blueprint. They're going to build up DC again. They're going to build up. No, it's not talking about the Lord is going to heal America after he smites it. He's speaking about his people, right? The Egyptians in captivity. And that's why you have to go through the precepts. All right, let's get a quick precept. What the Lord said in Jeremiah 51. I believe we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Right? This is Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 9. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. So America is not going to be healed. Once these missiles come, that's it. It's a wrap. But we are going to be healed, right? We will be healed. Hosea chapter 6 and verse 1. Come. So you link up Hosea 6 and 1 with Isaiah 19 and 22. Hosea 6 and 1. Come and let us return unto Yahweh. For he hath torn, and he will heal us. He hath smitten, and he will bind us up. So that's the same thing as Isaiah 19 and 22. And the Lord shall smite Egypt, and he shall smite and heal it, like we just read. And they shall return even to the Lord, and he shall be entreated of them, and shall heal them. Verse 23. And that day shall there be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria, and the Assyrian shall come into Egypt, and the Egyptian into Assyria, and the Egyptians shall serve with the Assyrians. Now, what is that going into? Well, that's speaking about the Israelites. You got the southern kingdom, you got the northern kingdom. Some of us are called the Egyptians. Some of us are called the Assyrians. We're going to come together. That's what it's saying. And that day shall there be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria. A highway is a means of transportation, for lack of better terms, right? So the Most High is going to put his spirit on us, and a highway essentially allows you to get from one point to another, right? So there's something stopping the Assyrians from gathering with the Egyptians, and that's the curses. That's your eye being evil towards your brother. That's Israel not showing love one to another. That's all these gods set up. The Most High is going to break that down and provide a highway so the Egyptians can link up with the Assyrians. So the northern kingdom can link up with the southern kingdom, and the southern kingdom can link up with the northern kingdom. How in the hell is the Most High doing all of this great work for the heathen? That's what people read Isaiah 19 and start getting all jammed up, man. Right? Let's get a precept for this about the Egyptians linking up with the Assyrians, right? Because we are the modern day Assyrians. We're in modern day Assyria, right? This is Ezekiel. I'm going to get straight to the point. Chapter 37 and verse 19. Saying to them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah. So you have the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, and make them one stick, and they should be one in mine hand. So the Most High is going to provide a highway, clear up the roadblocks, the impediments and stumbling blocks that stops Israel and Judah from coming together. That's why he said there's going to be a highway from Assyria to Egypt. That's not I-95, I-70, 695. Lord, okay, you got construction workers and they're doing 695. No. Isaiah 19 is completely parabolic. It's a dark saying, right? Isaiah 19 to 23. And that day shall there be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria. And people build highways to make transportation easier, to make communication easier, right? To make commutes easier. That's why highways are built. They're built to provide a faster means of communication and transportation, rather between an individual and his job, or neighborhood to neighborhood, city to city. right? So this is a means of the Most High putting a spirit on us for Israel and Judah to come together. Okay? And the Assyrian shall come into Egypt, and the Egyptian into Assyria, and the Egyptians shall serve with the Assyrians. And that's what's happening right now. The Egyptians are serving the Most High with the Assyrians. All right? That's happening right now. You got Northern Kingdom, you got Southern Kingdom. You got the Jews, you got the Gentiles. Right? The Lord said he had other sheep not of this fold. Everybody's serving the Most High together. Right? Let's get a precept for that. Right? Hosea. I believe that's Hosea 1. Right? Hosea chapter 1 and verse 11. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together like the Assyrians and Egyptians, and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel. All right, so this is saying the exact same thing as Ezekiel 37, Zechariah 10 and 10 on down, and Isaiah 19:22 on down. Okay, so this is back to Isaiah 19 and 24. So we read that the Egyptians are going to serve with the Assyrians. In that day shall Israel be the third with Egypt and with Assyria, even a blessing in the midst of the land. And I remember a brother called me. He was sad. He's like, "Oh man, Lord, why is the Most High making us third? I thought Deuteronomy 7 and 6 said what it said. 2 Samuel 7:23, Deuteronomy 14 and 2, Isaiah 44 and 1, 1 Chronicles 16 and 13. How are we now third? What happened?" And the brother got mad, man. Damn, what happened to us? Are we really going to be third under the Hamites? Now the Most High, what scripture is that? I mean, the Most High would dissing all his promises, man. The Lord said, "So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please," paraphrasing. So everything the Most High promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is going to be fulfilled. Whenever you have, let's say, 10 prophecies that all say the same thing, do you have one prophecy that seems like it's not saying the same thing? Look at that one prophecy and examine it. Don't let that one prophecy overthrow your judgment, or that one scripture like, "Oh, well, now this is a contradiction." No, you need to analyze that, because if you don't, it's going to overthrow you and you're going to think Israel is third. The Most High deals with the number 3. It's completion. So all it's saying is Israel, Egypt, and Assyria are all going to be one. All right. Verse 25. Whom Yahweh of hosts shall say, "Blessed be Egypt, my people, and Assyria, the work of my hand, and Israel, mine inheritance." So that's just all Israel. And that shows that we are in modern day Assyria. These are just different names for us, like the Lord called us Greeks, Scythians, barbarians. There's neither Greek, there's neither Jew, bond nor free. Same thing in Isaiah 19, neither Egyptian or Assyrian or Israel, right? We're all going to be delivered in the last days out of the hand of who? Of the Assyrians, right? Let's go to the book of Baruch, chapter 4, right? Let's go to Baruch, the 4th chapter. This is Baruch, chapter 4 and verse 30, right? Because the Most High is going to bring judgment upon this land, right? Upon the Assyrians for what they have done unto us, for the lynching, the murder, right? This captivity. Baruch chapter 4 and 30. Take a good heart, O Jerusalem, for he that gave thee that name will comfort thee. Miserable are they that afflicted thee, and rejoice at thy fall. Miserable are the cities which thy children served. Miserable is she that received thy sons. So the Lord says every city that we were sent to captivity to, they're going to have a miserable judgment, right? Which is pretty much every nation. For as she rejoiced at thy ruin and was glad at thy fall, so shall she be grieved for her own desolation. So there's a miserable judgment coming to modern day Assyria, because we have to serve captivity here. We read it in Isaiah 19. We read it in other precepts, Hosea 9, Zechariah 10. that we have to serve captivity in Assyria. So what's the judgment? The Lord said, miserable are the cities which thy children served. Miserable is she that received thy sons. For as she rejoiced at thy ruin and was glad at thy fall, so shall she be grieved for her own desolation. It's like, if I would take away the rejoicing of her great multitude, and her pride shall be turned into mourning. For a fire shall come down upon her from the everlasting, long to endure, and she shall be inhabited of devils for a great time. Now, ancient Nineveh, they wasn't destroyed by fire coming down from the Most High. They were destroyed by who? The Babylonians, right? Nebuchadnezzar, right? They were destroyed by the Babylonians. And they were destroyed by the Medes, right? They were destroyed by those different empires, and they were taken out around 609 or so BC. So this modern day judgment is upon modern day Nineveh. Fire is going to rain down upon her. So we're going to go into that judgment of fire raining down upon Babylon, right? It's going, or really Assyria. Let's go to Nahum, the 3rd chapter. So not only did, Salaki, bear with me. So not only did Jonah prophesy against Nineveh and Tobit, Nahum also prophesied against Nineveh, right? Nahum chapter 3 and 1. Woe to the bloody city. It is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departeth not. And America's a bloody city. How many Gadites, Judites, other tribes were all murdered treacherously in his land? The Lord said, the prey departeth not. We can't leave. We're the prey. We're the sheep amongst lions. We can't depart. You can't just say, okay, I'm going back to Jerusalem. You're held captive here in the dens and mountains of these wild lions. Verse 2, the noise of a whip and the noise of the rattling of the wheels and of the prancing horses and of the jumping chariots. The horseman lifteth up both the bright sword and the glittering spear. And there is a multitude of slain and a great number of carcasses. And there is none end of the corpses. They stumble upon their corpses. So the judgment upon modern day Nineveh is that Yahweh Shah is going to come and cause a multitude of slain. There's going to be a great number of carcasses, great number of dead bodies. Remember, the Lord sent one angel and killed 185,000 Assyrians, right? So Yahweh Shah is coming to do that exact same judgment, right? Verse 4, because of the multitudes of whoredoms, of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts. So in America, they into witchcraft, man. The television is witchcraft. They have actual wizards, warlocks, wicked priests on the left-hand side. Technology, science, all of that comes from witchcraft and sorcery. That's modern day Assyria. Nahum is prophesying about America, but they're being called Assyria. Right? Verse 5. Behold, I am against thee, saith Yahweh of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will show the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame. And right now, America's naked, or Nineveh's nakedness, is being seen. All of the wicked celebrities are being brought to light, and the things that they do in the dark. All of their crimes against so-called humanity are being revealed in the known world. The genocide, now they call Joe Biden Genocide Joe. He went from Sleepy Joe to Creepy Joe to Genocide Joe. And all of the nations, they call him Genocide Joe because all they do is murder and steal and rob and kill. And everybody's seeing the shame of America. Their economy's falling apart. Like we always go into, the infrastructure is at an all-time low. They're low in a totem pole of education. I mean, these Babylonians are complete idiots, man. They have no idea to discern their right hand or their left hand. That's what the Lord said about the Ninevites and Jonah. Right? They couldn't even discern their left and their right hand. These people have no idea what's going on, man. You watch some of these video clips, They just go and they ask the average American simple questions. Who was the first president? What's 2 plus 2? What is the capital of I don't know, New York? You know? Who is the, what happened in World War II? And they asking these Americans, they have no idea what's going on, man. I mean, they're complete fools. Everybody's seeing the folly and just the wickedness and baseness of Babylon the Great. Right? Verse 6. And I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile, and will set thee as a gazing stock. And the Lord is exposing America and making them a gazing stock. They're a spectacle to the world. Everybody's leaving the US dollar and they're joining BRICS. Everybody's leaving America. They're going back to their own country. You got people committing suicide. You got Edomites setting themselves on fire. There's another Edomite that set himself on fire, man. You had one that did it in, I believe that was DC. Then you had another one that just did it. He set himself on fire. So this place is finished, man. You got CEOs jumping off the buildings. They're a gazing stock. Verse 7. Nahum 3 and 7. And it shall come to pass that all they that look upon thee shall flee from thee, and say, Nineveh is laid waste. Who will bemoan her? Whence shall I seek comforters for thee? So everybody's going to flee from America. You even have NATO. They're going to break off from America. In Revelation 17 and 16 on down, it says the 10 whores shall hate the whore, and shall eat her flesh, and make her naked, and burn her with fire, paraphrasing. The Lord said, all thy companions have laid a wound under thee, paraphrasing Obadiah. Everybody's going to leave them. The Ishmaelites are going to leave them. In America, they're going to be caught out there. And nobody's going to feel bad at their destruction. That's what the Most High is saying. From whence shall I seek comforts for thee? I mean, where can I find somebody to help you? Because all you did was kill and murder and drop bombs and enslave the whole world. Nobody's going to feel bad at Nineveh's fall. Just like nobody felt bad when Nineveh fell back then, man. Ain't nobody to comfort America. It's over. And if you caught up in this system and you don't come out this world, you're gonna be right there with these modern day Assyrians, man. I'm gonna jump down. Right? Nahum chapter 3. I mean, this whole thing is good, man. Nahum chapter 3 and 13. Behold, thy people in the midst of thee are women. Yeah, they have transformers in the army. You got people damn effeminate, sodomites all in the industry, freakism. These are a soft, effeminate people, huh? In modern day Nineveh. The gates of thy land shall be set wide open unto thine enemies. The fire shall devour thy bars. Right? The Lord, what's a woman that's wide open? She can be penetrated. America, at one time, they were impregnable, impenetrable. You couldn't drop missiles here. They have the greatest military budget. They're a virgin. They were never touched. Now the Most High said you're going to be wide open, and all your enemies are going to run through you. Now, straight up, this is graphic, but guess what? It's the truth. You're going to go from a virgin, and all these nations, they're going to just blitz you, man. You know, and there's nothing you can do about it. And nobody's going to comfort you. Right, let's read on. Draw thee waters for the siege. Fortify thy strongholds. Go into clay and tread the mortar. Make strong the brickling, meaning set up your military defense system. Get your satellites ready. Get your space force built up. Make sure you got enough recruits in the army. Make sure you got enough ICBM missiles. Get your army together. That's what the Most High is telling them. There shall the fire devour thee. The sword shall cut thee off. It shall eat thee up like the cankerworm. Make thyself many as the cankerworm. Make thyself many as the locust. Right? Meaning get your army together. Thou hast multiplied thy merchants above the stars of heaven. The cankerworm spoileth and flieth away. And Esau has multiplied his merchants. He has corporations all over the world. Man. The US dollar is being used by every merchant. The modern day merchant is the modern day corporation. They do trade with corporations in Japan, trade and importing things from Germany, China, Taiwan, and technology in Africa. They have merchants and they have increased their wealth. Right? Verse 17. Thy crown are as the locust. Who's his crown? His celebrities. He has many famous people. Everybody knows these American industry celebrities. They know all of the NBA athletes, all of the NFL people, all of the top politicians. America is the home of the most famous people on earth. Thy crown are as the locusts, and thy captains as the grasshoppers, which camp in the hedges in the cold day. Right? But when the sun ariseth, they flee away. Their place is not known where they are. And right now, this is the cold day. And they're standing in the cold day because the judgment of fire didn't come. Right? That's what it says when the sun arises. The noonday didn't happen yet. They have yet to be scorched with fire. But when that fire and that judgment come upon Nineveh, you're not going to find their army. You're not going to find their celebrities. You're not going to find these men of might. Right? That's what verse 18 is going into. Thy shepherds slumber, O king of Assyria. Thy nobles shall dwell in the dust. Thy people are scattered upon the mountains, and no man gathereth them. Who are the modern day shepherds of Assyria? Your congressmen. The shepherds are the guide to sheep. There's a term used upon the Americans called sheeple. Right? What's a sheeple? Well, what is sheeple? Sheeple, people compared to sheep in being docile, foolish, or easily led. That's what these Americans are, man. They sit in front of the idiot box. They watch Wheel of Fortune. They eat a Big Mac, drink a Coke, go to sleep, wake up, go in their cubicle, type in numbers, go home, set their damn TV dinner up, and they do the same thing. They're watching Fox News and, the CBS and, whatever sitcoms are going on at Mondays at 7 p.m. They have no idea what's going on. Huh? They're influenced so easily by the radio. The newspaper speaks truth to them. These people are sheep. Who are the shepherds of the sheep? Who's running the propaganda? The media industry. The so-called Jew. And their rich elite families, they are the modern day shepherds of Assyria. Right? So let's read that again. Because they own the industry. They own the media outlets. Right? Let's pull that up. Right? They are the shepherds that Nahum prophesied about. You see that? Let's pull this up. The media. Right? 6 Amalekite corporations own 96% of the media. And this is what guides the Babylonians. Right? This is what guides them and leads them. These are the modern day shepherds. Your government, your so-called Amalekites that run the society, right? Your religions that have set up the false prophet, they are the shepherds in modern day Assyria. That's what Nahum 3 and 18 is speaking about. Nahum 3 and 18. Thy shepherds slumber, and they don't have an answer. They're asleep. Their light and wisdom is being taken away from them. O king of Assyria, thy nobles shall dwell in the dust. Thy people is scattered upon the mountains, and no man gathereth them. There is no healing of thy bruise. Thy wound is grievous. All they hear the bruit of thee shall clap their hands over thee. For upon whom hath not thy wickedness passed continually? And you can't heal America. They're in debt. Trillions of dollars. They owe every nation money. Every nation has ICBM missiles aimed at DC, New York, LA, Chicago, Philly, and every major city in America. They're ready to cyber attack and shut the power grid down. They're ready to invade. Russia wants to put bases and military weapons in Cuba. They're looking to take over Alaska. They're looking to shut this whole place down. And everybody that sees you fall, they gonna clap their hands. Because all you did was rape, rob, and murder. right? That's why it says, all they hear the bruit of thee shall clap their hands over thee. When America is destroyed, modern day Nineveh, the earth is going to rejoice and they're going to break forth into singing, huh? Right? Let's go to the book of Micah. And who's going to lead the destruction of modern day Assyria? Yahweh Shai. Yeah, the other nations, they're going to destroy Nineveh and Assyria, but Yahweh Shai, he's going to be the end all be all. This is Micah chapter 7 and 9. Yes, it's prophesied that Yahweh Shai will destroy Nineveh and Assyria. Micah 7 and 9. I will bear the indignation of Yahweh because I have sinned against him until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. He will bring me forth to the light and I shall behold his righteousness. Right? So Micah saying, look, we're going to accept this punishment because we sinned. We're going to be patient until the Lord delivers us. Verse 10. Then she that is mine enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her, which said unto me, where is the Lord thy God? Mine eyes shall behold her, now shall she be trodden down as the mire of the streets. Now, when it says, now she that is my enemy, who's the she that's our enemy? That's going to see us in this captivity, that's watching us being murdered. The she that is our enemy is the same her in Revelation, the 17th chapter, right? This is the she that is our enemy. Revelation chapter 17 and verse 1. And there came one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. That is the she that is my enemy. That's saying, where is your God? I have you Negroes, you Hispanics, you Native Americans in the palm of my hand. You're serving my gods. You're in my education system. You're in my military, and you work for me. You don't have no God. That is the she that is our enemy in the book of Micah, the 7th chapter, the whore of Babylon the Great, right? Micah 7 and 10 again. Then she that is mine enemy shall see it. So they're going to see Yahweh Shai execute judgment for us, and shame shall cover her, which said unto me, where is the Lord thy God? Mine eyes shall behold her, now shall she be trodden down as the mire of the streets. Meaning we're going to watch the missiles destroy America, right? The Lord said in Psalms, only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked, right? That's in the Psalms, Psalms 91, right? Mine eyes shall see my desire of mine enemies, and mine ears shall hear my desire of the wicked that rise up against me. That's Psalms 92. Right? So you're going to see Babylon be destroyed. It's not an actual woman getting trodden down in the streets. It's parabolic. Verse 11. And the day that thy walls are to be built, in that day shall the decree be far removed. The decree is the curses, right? Deuteronomy 28:45, or really 15, right? But if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments and his statutes which he commanded this day, all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. That is the decree, the judgment. But when Yahushua delivers us, that decree, that judgment, it's going to be far removed, because now the blessings are going to start to come upon us. Verse 12. And that day also he shall come even to thee from Assyria, and from the fortified cities, and from the fortress, even to the river, and from sea to sea, and from mountain to mountain. So what is this saying? Yahweh Shah is going to come unto us after he destroys these other nations, right? We're going to see Yahweh Shah come out that chariot after he's done destroying America. Once we get beamed down in the wilderness, he's going to take down mountain and mountain, meaning large kingdoms, sea to sea, other nations, because mountains are kingdoms and seas are kingdoms, right? Fortresses are their military bases where they hold their nuclear silos, where they have that red button that they want to press, right? So it's speaking about Yahweh Shah destroying America and these other nations, but it's called Assyria. Verse 13. Notwithstanding, the land shall be desolate because of them that dwell therein, for the fruit of their doings. Why is the land going to be desolate? Because bombs are going to be dropping all over the earth. Right? New York, LA, Paris, London, Tokyo, Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Cairo, Egypt. All of these major world cities are going to be desolate when the bombs start dropping. Right? Let's go to Matthew. Let's prove that. Yahweh Shai said that the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Right? This is Matthew chapter 24 and verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. So all of the wisdom and knowledge and understanding of the nations is going to be gone. And the stars, meaning the missiles, they're going to start falling to the earth. And the land is going to be desolate. It's going to be a wasteland, nuclear holocaust. And the powers of the heavens shall be shaken, meaning Russia, Moscow, Beijing and China, Shanghai and Tokyo, Hong Kong and China, London, Paris, Berlin, Amsterdam, Cairo, right? Morocco, all of these lands and these cities are going to be destroyed by fire, man. It's not just America. The Lord said he took down mountain and mountain and sea to sea. So Micah chapter 7 links directly up with Matthew, the 24th chapter, right? And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Let's go back to that in Micah chapter 7, right? Micah chapter 7 to 13. Notwithstanding, the land shall be desolate because of them that dwell therein, for the fruit of their doings, right? Meaning their wickedness is going to be judged by missiles. Let's read on. We'll read a little more on this. Feed thy people with thy rod, the flock of thine heritage, which dwell solitarily in the wood. And the midst of Carmel, let them feed in Bashan and Gilead, as in the days of old. So the Lord is going to deliver us and put us in the wilderness, right? Put us in another wilderness. That's what it's saying. All right, that's the wood that we're going to receive the correction and the new covenant and the laws and the statutes from. Verse 15 lets you know it's speaking about a second Exodus out of Assyria. According to thy days of thy coming out of the land of Egypt, will I show unto him marvelous things. We're going to see plagues and destruction like we saw in ancient Egypt. All right, let's move on. Let's go to the book of Micah chapter 5. Right, so now we're reading about the judgment upon Assyria. Right, Micah chapter 5 and verse 3. Therefore will he give them up until the time that she which travaileth hath brought forth. And then the remnant of his brethren shall return unto the children of Israel. So what is this saying? It says, therefore will he give them up. Who's going to give us up? The Most High. He's going to give us into the hands of the wicked. He's going to give us into the hands of the nations, of the so-called white man. Right? That's Isaiah 47. I did deliver them into thine hands. I polluted my inheritance. Are we given into the hands of the Assyrian forever? No. It's for a period of time. When does it end? It says, until the time that she which travaileth hath brought forth. Who's the she that's travailing? Israel. We're travailing. We're looking to bring forth our deliverance. Right? Right now we're bringing forth the wind, but we're looking to bring forth our deliverance, our salvation. So we'll be in captivity until salvation, until deliverance. Right? You got to chop these precepts up. All right? And you got to eat off the meat of the bone. Then the remnant of his brethren shall return unto the children of Israel, meaning Israel is going to be gathered together. And he shall stand and feed in the strength of Yahweh, in the majesty of the name of Yahweh his God. And they shall abide, for now shall he be great unto the ends of the earth. And this man shall be the peace, when the Assyrian shall come into our land, and when he shall tread in our palaces, then shall be raised against him 7 shepherds and 8 principal men. right? So the Most High is speaking about the so-called white man coming into our land to destroy us as a people. Now, this is a future prophecy. And us raising up 7 shepherds and 8 principal men, it's not 15 men, right? It's not, okay, we got this guy, okay, you got this guy, you got Mordecai, you got Paul. 7 and 8 is a spiritual spiritual way of saying an indefinite amount. And you see that same spirit in other precepts when 7 and 8 is being used, or 3 and 4 is being used, right? Let's go to Ecclesiastes 11 about the 7 and the 8. All right. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 11 and verse 2. Right? Give a portion to 7 and also to 8, for thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. Does that mean you literally give alms and portions and knowledge to 7 people? You see the 8th person, okay, I'm gonna give you some. Then the 9th person come around, you say, no, whoa, no, the Lord only said 7 and 8. Then the brother's starving, I need this, I need to learn, I need money, I need food. You say, no, God said only 7 and then 8, right? You're too late, brother. It is what it is. And you shake your hands, right? And move on. No, right? Don't take, remember, we're Israelites. And we have our own culture, our own vernacular, our own poetic way of speaking, right? Numbers aren't always literal. 7 and 8 is spiritual. 7 is a completion, and 8 means infinity or an indefinite beyond that, which means you always give, right? 7 and 8 means always, or an innumerable amount of times should an Israelite man of God give portions to his people, all right? Don't just do it on Purim. Same thing in Micah 5 and 5. Us raising up 7 shepherds and 8 principal men, it's not 15 men, right? Then a 16 man come and say, am I part of the elect? Am I going to serve the Lord? Say, no, there's only 15 of us. We don't need you. No, that's madness, right? So when the so-called white man comes into our land to destroy us, and this, we're going to go to Revelation 20 and Ezekiel 39, right? When he comes to try to destroy us, the Lord is going to raise up himself and then angels and the elect, right? First of all, Yahushua and the angels are going to destroy them. Then the elect are going to be given swords to rape, rob, and murder in righteousness, right? Or enslave, we'll use that word, the women, and pillage and plunder these other nations. That's the 7 shepherds and 8 principal men, right? That's going to be raised up to take down the Assyrian when he comes into our land, right? Verse 6, and they shall waste the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrod, and the entrances thereof. Thus shall he deliver us from the Assyrian when he cometh into our land, and when he treadeth within our borders. So on one level, when the so-called white man tries to destroy us in the time of Jacob's trouble, he's going to be destroyed. But chiefly, pursuant to Ezekiel 39 and Revelation 20, that's when he's going to come and try to destroy us as well. And the Lord is going to allow the angels and himself to completely annihilate them and deliver us from the Assyrian, right? And then we'll be left in that land, right? That's why verse 7 says, and the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many people as a dew from the Lord, and as the showers upon the grass that teareth not for man, nor waited for the sons of men. Because once Yahushua destroys those armies, the elect are going to be given a green light to go and rob those that robbed us. So the land of Nimrod and the Assyrian is a poetic way of saying a so-called white man and his armies and his land. All of that is going to be destroyed when Yahushua returns. And the 8, it's like it is 7 shepherds and the 8 principal men. It's just poetic way of saying all of the angels and the elect. It's not 15 actual men. Then the 16th and the 17th man, they're not going to be able to do anything, right? So they're going to come into the land. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 14, right? Then we'll read it in our Revelation. See where I'm at with time. All right, that's all right. This is Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 24. The Lord of hosts hath sworn, saying, surely as I have thought, so shall it come to pass. And as I have proposed, so shall it stand, that I will break the Assyrian in my land, and upon my mountains tread him underfoot. Then shall his yoke depart from off them, and his burden depart from off their shoulders. So the Assyrian will come into that land, but he's going to die upon the mountains, right? Let's get that in Ezekiel chapter 39, right? This is Ezekiel chapter 39 and verse 1. Therefore, thou son of man, prophesy against Gog, and say, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back, and leave but the sixth part of thee, and I will cause thee to come up from the north parts, and will bring thee upon the mountains of Israel. Same thing in Isaiah 14. Same thing in Micah 5. Same thing in Micah 7. Right? The Lord is going to use Gog and Magog and their allies, Russia, their allies, to come against Israel. Right? And we're going to be in that land after America is destroyed in these other lands. We're going to get beamed up. Right? The Lord is going to destroy America. We're going to get beamed down in that land after the so-called Jews burnt up out that land in World War III. We're going to be there, and then Gog and Magog is going to come see us, and they're going to try to destroy us. Then Yahweh Shah is going to destroy them, right? That's how the prophecy works. It's not no actual 1,000 years, and he's going to come. All of that is going to happen. There's only one return of Yahweh Shah, all right? And there's only one judgment upon these nations. There's one judgment day, okay? It's not two separate judgment days after 1,000 periods of time, right? That is completely off, prophetically speaking, right? So the Most High is going to bring them upon the mountains of Israel, and I will smite thy bow out of thy left hand, and will cause thine arrows to fall out of thy right hand. Thou shalt fall upon the mountains of Israel, thou and all thy bands, and the people that is with thee, and I will give thee unto the ravenous birds of every sort, and to the beasts of the field to be devoured. And they're literally, when they come over there with their jets, F-32s, helicopters, all of that is going to be destroyed, and it's going to fall upon the mountains of Israel. We'd have to get them to clean that land up and get the dead bodies cleaned up, and it's all going to fall upon the mountains of Israel. That's what we read in Isaiah chapter 14, right? Same thing in Micah. They're going to come into our land and try to tread within our borders, and the Lord is going to destroy them with the 7 shepherds and the 8 principal men. Let's go to Revelation chapter 20, right? Moving sort of fast just for sake of time, right? This is Revelation chapter 20, right? And verse 8. I'll start at 7. And when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. He's loosed already. You don't have to wait 1,000 years after Yahweh Shah's return. He's already out, right? And that happened through the time of the Renaissance. And shall go out to deceive the nations, which are in the 4 quarters of the earth. That's happening now. Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea, right? So that's the so-called white man, right? The Assyrian. And they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about and the beloved city. So that links up. They were coming to our land, or poetically speaking, tread within our palaces, or coming to the mountains, or tread in our borders. So they're going to compass the camp of the saints about, which are the people, the Israelites, and the beloved city, which is the land. And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. Meaning they're going to be destroyed the same way America was destroyed, right? That's all they're saying. It's not no physical lake of fire. The Lord going to destroy them, take the bodies, put them in America. Take the other bodies, pick them up, throw them in America, because America is just a lake of fire. Then Russia, Gog and Magog, who falls upon the mountains of Israel, he's going to gather them up and just throw them in the... No! Stop making the lake of fire some magical lake, man. It's just a poetic way of saying the destruction that Yahweh Shah comes with. So they're going to be destroyed the same way America's destroyed. America's going to be destroyed first and cast into the lake of fire. Then you're going to have Gog and Magog destroyed afterwards once Israel is put back in that land and they come against us to destroy us, the Assyrian. Then they're going to be destroyed the same way, where the beast, meaning Babylon the Great, is, and the false prophet, the religious structure and institution. They're going to be tormented day and night. Meaning they're just going to be destroyed, right? You know, and it's not literal. A lot of times, we find ourselves just re-explaining these things to break them down, because a lot of brothers may take this stuff literal and go about it in the wrong manner. And this is how you go through that prophecy. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 30, dealing with the Assyrian. Right? Isaiah chapter 30 and verse, I want to get straight to the point. Verse 30. And Yahweh shall cause his glorious voice to be heard, and shall show the lightning down his arm with the indignation of his anger, and with the flame of a devouring fire, with scattering and tempest and hailstones. So that's that fire and brimstone Yahweh Shah is coming with. For through the voice of Yahweh shall the Assyrian be beaten down and smote with the rod. You see that? What's the voice of the Lord? Right? Let's go to 2nd Ezra, chapter 13. Where the Lord said, for out of his mouth there came what? Fire, tempest, sparks, paraphrasing, right? 2nd Ezra, chapter 13 and verse 4. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burnt that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it filleth the fire. So his voice is not his words. His voice is really, a voice is your mouth, right? It comes from your mouth. It's something that emits out of your mouth. A mouth is a cavity, a hole, right? In your head, right? Or your face. And your voice comes out of it. So what it's saying on the parabolic way, the chariots have a cavity or a hole inside of it. And there's something that emits out of it, the same way your voice emits out of your mouth. And what's emitting and coming out of, projecting out of that hole are the lasers, right? Are the lasers, the concentrated fire coming from the chariots. It's not an actual voice. The Lord isn't going to talk and burn people up, right? It's a similitude. The way something emits out of your mouth is the same way lasers are going to emit out of that cavity or that hole of the chariot where they shoot out all the lasers from, you know? So that's why it tells you in Isaiah chapter 30, for through the voice of Yahweh shall the Assyrian be beaten down, which smote with the rod. So that links directly up with 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, right? Isaiah 30 and 32. And in every place where the grounded staff shall pass, which the Lord shall lay upon him, it shall be with tabrets and harps, and in battles of shaking will he fight with it. For Tophet is ordained of old. That's the lake of fire. Tophet is another way of saying the lake of fire, because that's where modern day hell, the concept of it came from. It came from Tophet. Tophet, it's like your Gehenna, right? These were places where they would burn waste, trash, carcasses of animals, dead bodies. So it's being used as a way of saying that Gehenna, that fire is reserved for the king of Assyria. It has been ordained to sanctified to burn up the Assyrian, right? That's what Tophet is. I thought I had my Bible dictionary on me. So we're going to this word Tophet, right? Salakia, bear with me. So here's Tophet. Tophet is a place, but it's used in a parabolic manner. See, Tophet, place of fire, a place in the southeast end of the valley of the son of Hinnom, south of Jerusalem. So it's really going into that area of Jehoshaphat or Armageddon, right? Where Yahweh Shah is going to destroy those men. Okay? So it says, for Tophet is ordained of old. Yea, for the king it is prepared. Who's the king? The king of Assyria. He hath made it deep and large. Is that literal? Right? For you people that believe in hell, you got to break down Isaiah 30 and 33. The power thereof is fire and much wood. The breath of the Lord, like a stream of fire, doth kindle it. That's a mean precept right there, right? So Tophet is reserved for the king of Assyria. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 31. This is Isaiah chapter 31 and verse, let's see, I want to start at 8, right? I'll start at 5. As birds flying, so will the Lord of hosts defend Jerusalem. Defending also, he will deliver it, and passing over, he will preserve it. So as birds flying, that's speaking about the chariots, because we're going to be delivered like birds flying. The chariots are going to fly over us and deliver us. Let's jump down to verse 8. Then shall the Assyrian fall with the sword, not of a mighty man, and the sword, not of a mean man, shall devour him, but he shall flee from the sword, and his young men shall be discomfited. And he shall pass over to his stronghold for fear, and his princes shall be afraid of the ensign, saith Yahweh, whose fire is in Zion, and his furnace in Jerusalem. So these are just showing that the Lord is going to take us out of Assyria and deliver us and destroy the land of Nimrod thereof. Isaiah chapter 27 and verse 13. And it shall come to pass in that day that the great trumpet shall be blown. That's the 7th trumpet. And they shall come which are ready to perish in the land of Assyria, and the outcasts in the land of Egypt, and shall worship Yahweh and the holy mount of Jerusalem. So the Lord is going to beam us up out of Assyria, put us in our own land, and deliver us. Because Tophet is reserved for the king of Assyria, and Nineveh will be laid waste. Let's get one more. Isaiah, right? Chapter 11 and verse 15. And Yahweh shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea. And with this mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in the 7 streams, and make men go over dry shod. He's going to destroy the sea of Babylon the Great and 7 streams, meaning complete destruction to America. They are the sea, right? And there shall be a highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, like as it was to Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt. So the highway in this context is us getting beamed up, right? The highway takes you from one point to another. So that tractor beam, after America's or when America's about to be destroyed, is going to take us from the earth to the chariot. That is that spiritual highway. In that context, just like there was a highway and an opening made when we came out of Egypt. So we will be delivered from the Assyrian, right? We will be delivered from the Assyrian, which parabolically speaking in prophecy is the so-called white man, a man of might. Every so-called white man that rules, he is the Assyrian, chiefly the so-called white man in America. But prophetically, it goes as well to Ezekiel 38 and 39. So with that, we're going to close up, giving, of course, our honor and our glory to Yahweh. Ba'ashima Mashiach Wamalak Yahushai. Most High willing you were edified. Kwam Yashalom. Shalom.